Okay, I think we're recording. All right, today we are going to replace the stock steering wheel with a Momo Prototipo. We do have our hub adapter here, and I have never done this before, so it should be exciting. I do happen to know. All right, we're going to go through a couple different things. So I do have my Haynes manual. This is a very, very helpful thing if you're going to own a old pickup truck like this. So I got my torque spec and things like that. We'll end up using that in a little bit. I happen to know from messing around with it that you pop the horn cover off. In my case, the horn doesn't work. There's a horn button down here. We may potentially look at rewiring that today, or I might save that for another time. I haven't decided yet. But to get started, there is a set screw right under the very bottom of the steering wheel back here. I'm not going to bother moving the camera, but you have to trust me, it's right there. This set screw is already loose, so now what you do is you just kind of pry it up and shimmy down. That's where the set screw goes, and you slide it up, and then these two tabs you kind of pop out of place, and here we are. I already have a little bit of play in the steering wheel as it is. This is where they say to make some marks about how straight and narrow everything's supposed to be. I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make for me, especially with the play that's in there, but we're going to try it nonetheless. So I've got a paint marker here. I guess we're going to try it right on the spindle. I'm pretty confident from my parking job that the wheels are nice and straight. I'm going to go kick that light back on. A little additional light so we can see. So I know the wheels, front wheels are pretty darn straight. Like I said, there's a little bit of play in this, but we're just going to try and keep it as level as possible. I might end up running into a speed bump of, I didn't bother buying a steering wheel puller yet. I'm going to hope that I might be able to just potentially knock it off without. And we'll find out. Now in the videos, when they talk about like making this mark, they don't really specify what you're marking it against. They don't make that too terribly clear. So I'm going against the back plate here, which is where the puller will end up going. And yeah, let's just keep moving. So 17 millimeter fits right on. Don't actually need the adapter yet. We'll need that in a little bit. Maybe I do. Yeah, I might as well have it because the steering wheel's a little bit in the way. Lefty loosey, and here goes nothing. Hold the steering wheel tight. All right, well, I'm pretty sure that that is a little over torque at this point. God dang, yeah, that thing is on there tight. I don't know who put it on. I'm pretty sure the manual said, I think it was like 26 to 35, somewhere 20-something to 30-something foot-pounds. And this feels like it is a lot tighter. There we go. Okay, got it loose. Definitely a lot tighter. So I'm trying to keep that somewhat straight. You know, my knees a little bit here. There we go. Back that off. Twist, twist, twist. Make sure we're not doing anything stupid. Yep. All right. Like I said, there normally be some level of disconnecting the horn. I've got a spade connector here. It goes to the button. I guess that would probably plug into this bit right here. You can see another bit of ground wire that goes down. But previous owner buggered that up. Somebody somewhere along the way buggered that up. So that doesn't work anymore. So I don't know how much it matters which is top or bottom on this. We're going to try and keep it consistent. That looks like it's the bottom, so we're going to set it down that way. There's a lock washer. Slide that off. And in theory, hey, look at that. Didn't need a puller. Isn't that great? Now my steering wheel is off. Cool beans. That's a part for the horn trigger there, I do reckon. That goes against the ring there. That's a part of how this whole system works. That's neat to know. Quite a bit of a weight difference between the two. Now I am going to a smaller diameter. This truck does not have power steering, so hopefully I don't hate myself for that. There's only one way to find out. There you go. So there's my hardware for the steering wheel. Slide the rubber cover off for a moment on the hub adapter. On the hub adapter, we do have a top that points up And that's somewhat interesting just because you'll notice that the bolt pattern on the steering wheel, there's a bolt up at the very top. But on this, it doesn't quite line up the same. So, I don't know what exactly they mean by that. We're going to go with trying to line it up, because since we still have this nice and straight, as far as I can gather, I'm going to try and line that up accordingly. It's splines and splines. Still a fair amount of grease on there. So we're just going to try and give that a whirl. I'm just going to take a quick look nice and carefully at it. Make sure there's nothing I'm missing. Getting grease all over my hub. That's no fun. Like I said, I am totally just doing this live right now. I am 100% winging it. So we're going to try and get as straight as possible. But as far as my painted line right here, that does seem to be lining up pretty damn well with that top bolt right there. So let's take that in as such. All right, all right. This is going to raise a question. When I do go to hook this whole setup, I've got my cute little knockoff horn. Just a generic one I got off of eBay, popped the stock sticker off, and my daughter gave me a cute little pup to put on there. It has 2 connections. So that's just something that we're going to look into in the future. I'm not going to deal with all that at the moment. I'm going to just kind of tuck that out of the way. And I'm going to move forward with the install. So we're going to put our lock washer back on. And this is the outside. I'm going to thread that guy back on there. Impact gun might be helpful. I do technically own one, but I'm not going to go and grab it at the moment. I'm going to kind of back this in until it feels pretty decently tight. Hey-o! Alright. So with my phone mount conking out on me for a moment there, me having to find the phone, that also gave me an opportunity to step away and find my torque wrench, which I'm going to need. Here's where we're going to flip back to the book for a moment. Chapter 10. And torque specs. Steering wheel down at the bottom, 26 to 32. Now, I do have to use my adapter here. No, I don't. I can get away without. So, we're going to set it somewhere in the middle. Between 26 and 32. I'm going to go with... There it goes. It's worth investing in a quality phone mount if you ever want to do this type of stuff. Mine has seen better days. It's gotten a little bit sticky. We're just going to hold you here for a moment. Let's see. Oh. There we go. All right. So anyways, that's 20. There's 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Let's go for 30. 30 feels right. Where did I just put my socket? Everything's moving. I don't actually know what you're supposed to do to hold this in place, but I figure the steering lock's going to step in a moment, right? Maybe, maybe not. There it is. So I have to turn the key in a moment to get that to come back, but there you go. Nice solid click. And I am going to take a moment, turn the key back on, so I can release the steering lock. There we go. Get that more or less back to where it's supposed to be. Man, I can only imagine how screwed I'd be if I didn't have the steering wheel. So let's hope that this works. I'm going to go ahead and put the rubber gasket back on because I think it looks nice. I don't want to deal with it not being on there. It does have a little bit of these, there's like 4 flat spots that coincide with the 4 arms. So it kind of lines itself up nicely. There we go. Break out my Allen. my Allen wrench. I'm going to set those over here for a second. And line this up. Now there is a horn adapter plate that this comes with that, as far as I can gather, is specifically for the Momo horn. And my horn is not Momo, it is very much cheap aftermarket. Whether I still need it or not is to be determined, since I'm going to stick with my little button horn in the meantime. And it does, in fact, seem to hold itself in place on the steering wheel, with it being kind of a universal, generic deal. So, starting off kind of getting the initial triangle, the first 3 in place. I'm going to get those seated enough to help hold the wheel steady while I get the rest of it in place. And once I have another hand free, I'll show you a little bit more what I'm doing. There we go, that's enough. So come on back this way. Nice and dark. I don't know if you've been able to see any of the other it. Ah, there we go. Better light. So we got 1 and 2, and so we're just kind of, these aren't even necessarily tight yet, just barely finger tight. There's 3. Set that down. Let's get my other 3. One, 2, 3. Now with these, and imagine you probably don't want to really crank them down too much. There's not really a specific torque spec for it. The Momo box did come with some torque specs that were for the nut down in here, but it didn't really say anything about putting these on there. It's down there. Alright, those feel nice and tight. Now, we got our little doggo, who we've already covered in grease. And there we go. A lot of rubbing noise on the housing there, which I guess is okay. I mean, it's on the way it's supposed to. It looks like there's a bit of a spacer on the wheel that was not on the housing. I don't think that's supposed to come off or anything. So, I guess that's supposed to be how it is. I'm going to take it for a quick spin.